The LGFA All-Stars of 2024, Slaughtneil winning an epic Ulster Senior Hurling Championship semi-final, and some huge shocks from the club championships around the country, including Thomastown and Ballina Stephenites being eliminated from the club championships in their respective provinces. All that and more as myself and Matthew Hurley run through the entire weekend of action. Be with us. Here's another episode live on Cluiche. Welcome. Yes, guys, welcome back to another video here on Cluiche with myself, Séamus Brady, the host. And it's my pleasure to be joined once again by Matthew Hurley, the Gaelic Statsman. A very, very happy Matthew Hurley as well. Obviously, there you're wearing the Sarsfields half zip. Do you want to tell us real quick? Sarsfields, of course, beating Fecal into, of course, the next round of the Munster Senior Hurling Championship, where you will come up against Ballina in the showpiece event of the province. Just a brilliant day for Stars. I'm sure you're delighted.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again, Séamus. Yeah, it's one of them weird situations where we've been talking about club championships down through the years and seeing who will win what, and we make wacky predictions and all that. I'm kind of in a situation this year that I'm in backroom team helping out with stats for SARS this season. I'm absolutely delighted, first and foremost, to be in the backroom team of this amazing group of players, amazing management team, and it was great that players got over the line today against a very good Fecal side, and they looked to be very much in it at half time, but the lads dug deep towards the end of it, and they reeled off, I think it was 7 points without reply in the last quarter or last 10 minutes or so, which was absolutely outstanding from them. And it was a very good victory. As you said before, Ballygunner is going to be a tough game, and I'm sure everyone in SARS knows that. Ballygunner are a seasoned team at this stage. They're all Ireland favourites for a reason, but I'm sure the lads will be just thrilled to go ahead with the challenge in the next few weeks. And yeah, it was just great for them to get the win. I'm happy for them more than anything, and I'm just a small cog. I just do a few numbers for them. That's all I do. But it was just great for them to get over the line, and absolutely thrilled for them, obviously, to do that and into a Munster final now in 2 weeks' time for SARS.
Certainly, and I've got a massive test ahead of you, but you are coming in off the back of some serious momentum now after that victory over Fecal. We will come to that game, and we were just going to run through the News of the Week section as well. So we have, obviously, the LGFA All-Stars took place last night. So the TG4 LGFA All-Stars, I was there in the Bonington for the awards. Great night. Lots of entertainment. We had Marty Morrissey and Maureen Vrain on hosting. We had multiple different musicians playing. And then, of course, we had the official All-Stars named along with the Player of the Year awards for senior, intermediate and junior. We'll go through them as well. So starting off with the All-Star team itself, dominated by Kerry and Galway, but notably 3 Armagh players in there. And Katie Quirk, of course, flying the flag for Cork at full forward. So all 4 of the All-Ireland semi-finalists represented in the team. And yes, like 10 first All-Star winners in this team. And some big names winning their first All-Star award. Like players like Alva Davern winning her first All-Star award. You would have thought she had one before, but she didn't. Kaylee Cronin at fullback was up for Footballer of the Year. Nicola Ward at centre-back was up for Footballer of the Year as well. And Lauren McConville at left-half-back, she was up for it as well. And we'll come to who won it in just a second. But what did you make of the team? Were you happy with the selection? Would you agree with the selection, or is there anything you would have changed?
Yeah, it was quite an interesting selection. I'd agree with the vast majority of the team, I'd say. Goalkeeper Keir Butler, I'd absolutely agree, because Kerry's defence was outstanding throughout the whole season. The full back line, I had 2 differences to the one that was named. The names were Grace Ferguson, Katie Cronin and Kate Garrity. I would have had Katie Cronin, and I know when we get on to Player of the Year in a bit, I probably would have had Kaylee as Player of the Year, but obviously Nicola Ward got it. I wouldn't have had Grace Ferguson. I would have had Ailish Lynch from Kerry, but I could see at the same time why Grace Ferguson got it. Armagh did well in the league, and if you're counting league and championship, that's a fair enough assumption as well. And I would have had another Galway player above Kate Geraghty. I would have had Sarah Neal-Inchik. I thought Sarah had an outstanding season for Galway at full back. I might have been deviating a bit, putting her at a cornerback, but I could see again why Kate Geraghty would have got it as well. In the half back line, I got two of them. I would have absolutely agreed with Ashton O'Connell and Nicola Ward. I would have agreed with those. Laura McConville got the 7th spot. I would have given it to Aoife Delan from Kerry. I thought her slotting into a role where Cluiche was so comfortable for Kerry over the last few seasons, and Cost's absence wasn't really felt by the Kerry team, and that probably epitomised Aoife Delan's performances throughout the whole season. So I would have thought she probably maybe deserved it over Laura McConville, but I could see again Laura McConville was outstanding throughout the whole year for Armagh. That's the thing, yeah. So
she shouldn't have been in.
It's a difficult one. It really is. I just feel like Aoife Delan deserves praise this season for slotting into a role seamlessly where Cluiche was so immovable in many ways. So it's a difficult one. It really is a difficult one to call. Both had amazing years. Probably Laura McConville deserved it. Looking at it throughout the whole season, but I think Aoife Delan definitely deserves her flowers after the whole season that she had throughout the year. In midfield, I would have had Alva Davern, and to be honest, in hindsight, I would have had Anna Galvin above Niamh Coleman from Armagh. So I would have had Anna Galvin there from Kerry. The half forward line is quite interesting. I will say, I had differing positions. I had Daniel O'Leary at centre forward in my team, named after the All-Ireland final. She was named a corner forward in this team. So I suppose Daniel could play anywhere or across the forward line there. Olivia Divley, I would have had her, so that's fair enough. I would have had, I'm looking now, I would have had Emma Deneen above Niamh Carmody, but then again, both have had amazing seasons, so that's fair enough. The other one then is Aoife McCoy from Armagh. She was on my podcast previously. I'm delighted for Aoife that she got an All-Star. I'm absolutely thrilled for her. She's a brilliant Gaelic footballer. Probably deserved an All-Star in previous seasons, more or less, in 2020, 21. I thought she was brilliant for Armagh. For this season, though, I don't think she scores enough in the All-Ireland stages to warrant an All-Star, in my opinion. My pick would have gone to Carla Rowe from Dublin. I know Dublin exited the quarterfinals, but if you look at Carla Rowe's scoring record this season, from an individual standpoint, I thought she was outstanding for Dublin. And she was injured for the game against Galway. She was missed, clearly. Galway won the game. And you feel like if Carla Rowe was there, Dublin might have got over the line. And I'm sure you have this point a lot, Séamus, on what warrants an All-Star. What player makes the team better? And I thought Carla Rowe made the Dublin team better. So I think Carla Rowe deserved an All-Star this season, in all honesty. And then only full forwards.
Just to fully explain why my mind goes with that, my point is as the championship panned out, like I think it's kind of hard to say would Carla have made a difference, because, for example, like if Sinead Goldrick wasn't there against Galway, I would have been saying, oh, well, if Sinead was there, like she would have made a huge difference. We might have beaten Galway, but she was there and we didn't. My thing is knowing what we know now, knowing how the championship played out, knowing what team went on to win the All-Ireland, etc., etc. What player is the Jenga piece in that? What players are the ones that you take it out and the whole structure of the year can change? Because when you look at Dublin, for example, like a good example is Dublin through the 2010s. If you look at the forwards were never the most important players on the Dublin team. Dublin's key forward changed a lot from the first All-Ireland win in 2015 up to the last one and to complete the 6th in a row in 2020. In 2015, the key forward was Paddy Andrews and Bernard Brogan. In 2017, we changed. Now it was Paul Mannion and Dean Rock that were the key forwards. Then in 2019, it was Con O'Callaghan. And we had then years where it's Cormac Costello, then it's Colin Baskell in 2023. But the point is that then you look further, deeper into the team. James McCarthy, Brian Fenton, these guys are immovable. They were ever present in that Dublin team in their positions. And they were the key cogs, along with the likes of Stephen Cluxton, along with the likes of John Small, Kieran Kilkenny. They were the key players that never really changed, never really got dropped. Obviously, Kilkenny had his off year in 2023, but he was very strong this year. You have a couple of comments in, but that's my kind of criteria for the All-Stars. I think when you look at the team this season, I was surprised that Emma Dineen didn't get in. I was surprised because I thought she was very, very good. But I think, like, when you're looking at the All-Stars, knowing how we know now and knowing what we know now, I think without Katie Quirk, I think Cork would have been in big trouble. I think in long periods of the year. I think if Galway didn't have Nicola Ward at 6, they don't beat Dublin in that game in Parnell Park without Nicola Ward at 6. Like, there's a lot of things that you can look at. And then Anna Galvin, for example, getting a Kerry. Kerry massively improved their midfield. They massively refreshed it from this year to what it was last year. And that, in my opinion, is then the reason why those players deserve said All-Stars. Carla Rowe might have made the difference against Galway, but she also might have done nothing. Like, she might have been in and been picked up by Sarah Nealunchig or Kate Geraghty and been taken out. We just don't know. And I think if Carla Rowe had got it this year, to me, it would have seemed like she only got it because of the profile that she has.
I don't know though, Séamus. Like, you look at the scoring record in the championship this season, she was the second top scorer from play with 7 goals and 5 points. She was the second top scorer overall with 7 goals and 19 as well. And she was out for the Galway game, just taking out the Galway game. Like, and I just feel like Dublin lacked a scoring threat against Galway without Card on the team. That was my honest thing about this. And I remember back in 2010, in the men's game, Colm Cooper got an All-Star because he was influential for Kerry. And Kerry only got to the quarterfinals. In their standards, they had a poor season. But Colm Cooper still got an All-Star because of his influence for Kerry, even when they were struggling in games. And I feel like Carla was the key component for Dublin in getting them over the line in games. And once she was taken out against Galway, the attacking threat kind of dwindled. That was my kind of thing with this. I completely agree with you on Katie Quirk, and she would have been in my team as well before the All-Star ceremony as well. Top scorer of the championship. And you even look back to the first game of the league, and I remember this distinctly as well. Cork beat Galway, I think it was 1-7 to 1-6 in Bishopstown's 4G pitch. And Katie Quirk scored every one of Cork's scores. 1-7. It was basically Katie Quirk against Galway that day, in that rainy day in January. So she absolutely deserved an All-Star that season. And the final qualm I'd have about this, firstly, I'll say this, and it's the same situation with a Garrod Hagerty or an Amy O'Connor with the Camogie. I'm sure we'll get onto the Camogie in a bit as well. Louise Ní Bhurthairtig is a fantastic player. I think one of the best NGFA players in our generation. But if you're looking at it from a standpoint from this season, I don't think she deserved an All-Star. I think it should have gone to Roisin Leonard from Galway because of her free-taking ability, because of the way she was getting Galway through games. Like, she was outstanding in the semi-final against Cork to get Galway to the final. And to be honest, Louise only had one real influential game, and that was the final. When you look at it throughout the whole season, I don't think she had an influential game in the semi-final against Armagh. I thought she got well shackled in that game. In the quarter against Meath, I don't think she played that big of a role in Kerry getting over the line. And at the start of the All-Ireland campaign anyway, she wasn't starting because she was gaining full fitness after an injury. So I don't think Louise deserved an All-Star this season. She was deservedly player of the year last year and deservedly got her All-Ireland this year. What she deserved, absolutely. Do I think she deserved an All-Star this season, though? I'm not so sure. I think Roisin Leonard should have got it.
Interesting. Yeah, like I feel like there's a potential that it kind of just goes hand in hand. A lot of people think Kerry win, Louise should get an All-Star. Like that type of mindset. But I do think that she was good. She wasn't at a level that she was last year, but she played a lot better in the final this year than she did last year. I thought against Dublin in the final last year, I thought she was very uncharacteristically quiet. I think Leah Caffrey did a really, really good job on her that day. But we'll run through the players of the year. I'm happy with the team though. My kind of bottom line on it, I think it's a very, very solid all-star team. Running through the players of the year. The junior player of the year was Emer Smith from Fermanagh. I don't think anybody can have any complaints about that. She was absolutely sensational. Top scorer across the board.
Yeah.
yeah, just unbelievable. We just got to have a lot to get through, so we'll speed it up. The intermediate player of the year then was Michelle Gutkian, Captain Fantastic for Leitrim. Absolutely sensational in that final against Tyrone. And then the senior player of the year was Nicola Ward from Galway. Again, sensational. And what I said was, I fully believe that. I think without her, Galway wouldn't have beaten Dublin in Parnell Park. She's been sensational, not just for Galway, but for Kilkerran and Clonberne as well. They're in the Final Four once again. And we have a couple of comments in here for you, Matthew. So this is from Pádraig Lennon. He says, Matthew, a proud Sarsman. And then he also says, I'm lucky enough to be from Pearses. A good, strong performance. We should beat Strandhill in the final. You will beat Strandhill in the final, Pádraig, because I've been so impressed by Pearses from the start of this club championship. And I personally think that they are going to go all the way. But seeing my previous track record in predictions over the last year, maybe don't get too ahead of yourselves on that. But yeah, we will as well touch on the Camogie All-Stars before we jump into the club championship matches. Again, very, very interesting team, some interesting picks. Again, Cork dominated, given obviously the All-Ireland win again. What did you make of the Camogie All-Star team for 2024?
Yeah, again, some very, very interesting picks in this, and a few differing picks that I would have had to the team. Like Amy Lee, I don't think you could have major qualms about that. Cork's defence was solid throughout the whole season, and I don't think you could have qualms about that. The full back line was the exact same as mine, so again, we'll move swiftly on. The half back line, like in hindsight, I probably would have had Laura Hayes above Izzy O'Regan. Laura Hayes was deservedly the player of the year as well. Saoirse McCarthy equally deserved it in a Camogie standpoint as well. Laura Tracy. An interesting one is Claire Gannon for Dublin, and this is a stat that will burn Dublin fans, including yourself, brains, Séamus. Across the four codes, Claire Gannon is Dublin's only All-Star in 2024.
Yeah,
it's mad. It is
when
mad.
The last time Dublin didn't win one in football across the board. Like, no All-Star for Dublin in Gaelic football this season. Men's Gaelic football or LGFA. That's bonkers.
Yeah, it's unreal. It really is. And added to the fact as well, since 2008, this is Dublin's second All-Star in Camogie. Ashley Maher got one in 2017 and Claire got one this season as well. So it is a historic achievement for Claire Gannon and the St. Jude's Club. So fair play to her for getting one. I personally would have given to Anne-Marie Starr for Galway. I thought she was influential for Galway this season. So but then again, like, excellent from Claire Gannon to get one. Ashley Thompson absolutely deserved one. Kind of disappointed Niamh Kilkenny didn't get one for Galway. I know Aoife Donoghue was outstanding for Galway as well. But just what Niamh Kilkenny has gone through over the last year or so, coming back after having a baby, going to the All-Ireland final, probably one of the most influential players for Galway at the age of 34, 35 from midfield. I think she probably deserved an All-Star this season. That's my honest opinion, but I think Aoife Donoghue is equally a good pick there. Karen Kennedy got one at centre forward, which is quite interesting, and Carrie Dolan. I'm kind of shocked, and yes, it's another player like Carla Rowe that only got to the quarterfinal, but I think she deserved one. Beck Harton, she was the top scorer overall in the Camogie Championship. She was the second top scorer from play. I think Waterford would have struggled if Beck Harton wasn't in the team. So
I agree.
I felt like Beck Harton deserved an All-Star this season. There's no doubt about that. The other one then, Amy, and this is the same reasoning as the reasoning for her take. Amy O'Connor was an outstanding player. Outstanding. There's no questions about that. I just feel like, though, this season, if you're only counting this season, I don't think she was influential a player for Cork as she has been over the last 2 seasons. So for that reason, I would have given it to a player, funnily enough, that wasn't even nominated for this, Grace O'Brien for Tipperary. She was the top scorer from play in the championship. She was probably Tipperary's most influential forward in scoring. So I don't get what the issue is there in Grace not getting even a nomination there. I thought she really, really deserved it. And quite an interesting stat as well. Out of the 8 top scorers across the 4 codes from playing overall, only 3 got All-Stars at the end of it. They were Daniel O'Leary, Katie Quirk, and David Fitzgerald from Clare. 3 out of 8. That just it does, and especially for men's Gaelic football and Camogie, do they have something against very good scorers? It's a genuine question, because like Grace O'Brien didn't get one, Beck Harton didn't get one, Ryan O'Donoghue didn't get one, and Con O'Callaghan didn't get one. So It's an interesting
but
question to
I don't
ask.
know. It's like, could you not argue that maybe that team didn't make it that far because they are so reliant on that player? Like, without Ryan O'Donoghue, Mayo, who's scoring that for them? All their forwards, this is the truth about Mayo's forwards. This is what's so frustrating about watching them the last 2 years. Mayo have so many might be a really good player today. Like, they've so many players that can catch form, that can catch fire, that can do this, can do that. Ryan O'Donoghue is the most consistent out of a lot of them. You know, most weeks Ryan O'Donoghue turns up at least 7 or 8 out of 10. Mayo do have a lot of players that are like so dangerous one week and then the next week completely taken out of the game. And I feel like that's been one of the key reasons why they have struggled over the last 2 years to get back up to the level. A lot of people still have it ingrained into their mind that Mayo are one of the top teams in the country. And while I'm not saying that they don't have the capability to be this year, the reality is the last few years they've not been. You know, they were knocked out by a Derry side that might as well have been boxing the head off each other in the dressing room before the game. They were knocked out by that Derry side this year. They were absolutely battered by Dublin in the quarter-final the year previous, and they were held at arm's length by Kerry in 2022. They've had 3 bad years now in a row where they've been nowhere near an All-Ireland. And I feel like this next couple of years, if they don't put themselves back into the conversation, they're heading for a real dry patch. Like, you're thinking 2006 to 2012, that felt like a long time the Mayo went without getting to an All-Ireland final. You know, we're starting to catch up on that. You know what I mean? We're starting to hit year number 4 now. If they don't make it to the All-Ireland final next season, and all of a sudden you're only 2 more years away from equaling that period of time. So they definitely need a big year next season. And very quickly then, the final thing on the All-Stars before we do move on is the senior player of the year, obviously, which was Laura Hayes from Cork. I've always been really, really impressed with Hayes. Like, one game that she absolutely stood out to me was the Galway semi-final last season. I remember her just being immense in the half-back line that day. And she was outstanding all year this year. And in my opinion, deservedly picks up the player of the year.
Yeah, I think so as well. She was absolutely outstanding throughout the whole season, and she was brilliant at the wing back row, Laura Hayes, and the other Laura, the half back line, Laura Tracy, was equally as good as well. She would have been probably my pick for player of the year. Kind of surprised if she didn't get a nomination as well, but Laura Hayes, that is, was absolutely outstanding for Cork and deserved player of the year. There's no doubt about that. And yeah, Cork were probably the best. I know Galway did well in the All-Ireland final to an extent, but you cannot argue Cork were the best team throughout the whole season in Camogie. And I don't want to say this to grind a few gears and all that, Séamus, but I think Cork could dominate for a few years now. They have the panel. They have a youth on their side as well. They have fantastic players on their team. They're all buying in. They have a fantastic coach now, Germany, taking on the stewardship, obviously, from Matthew Toomey. I feel like we're in a period of Cork dominance, and Laura absolutely deserves her Player of the Year award.
I absolutely agree. I think this next Cork dynasty in Camogie, I think, is already well underway. I don't see them being knocked off their perch for a long time. Galway are, starting to, their key players are starting to hit the twilight of their career. Kilkenny were miles off the pace this season, getting beaten by Dublin in the quarterfinal, which is
added to that, Séamus, they've now lost Grace Walsh and Miriam Walsh to retirement, and Denise Gauld's down in Australia. So Kilkenny are going to feel, I think it's transitional period for Kilkenny. It's going to be tough for them in the next few seasons without those 3 players in particular.
Yeah, they've been the backbone of their success over the last few seasons. But yeah, we're going to jump into the club championships. And I'm just going to say, I was looking through the results. I've not had a bad week in terms of predictions. I've had a pretty decent week. Called both of the Munster semi-finals correctly. I called 3 out of the 4 Leinster senior hurling quarterfinals correctly. Obviously, we got 1 wrong, and we'll come to that. Yeah. But I had a pretty decent week. And we'll start off with the game that you yourself were involved in. So the first of the Munster Senior Hurling Championship semi-finals. Sarsfield's 125, Feakle 117. Now, I'm fully aware of the role that you have within the Sars backroom team, but if just in kind of simple terms, what do you think were the key moments in the victory today? What were the key periods and the key, possessions, scores, turnovers, everything like that got Stars over the line today?
I obviously can't go into detail and stuff because obviously, in the background team and all that, but I do think Stars were excellent in the second half, particularly at score. It was 117 to 117, I think, going to the last quarter, and Stars reeled off the last 8 points unanswered. And a few of their main forwards really stepped up, I have to say. Aaron Moyer's absolutely outstanding, 1-6 from play today. And he showed the quality that he does have. Aaron was missing for the start of the league campaign for Stars and a bit of the championship as well. He wasn't starting in the team because he was just coming back from Boston in the States. So he was on that kind of a holiday kind of thing for him. And then to come back into the team in the championship, he's come back into form slowly but surely. But today we see the real Aaron Moyers. He's an outstanding hurler and is definitely one of the best hurlers over the last few years in the Cork Club Championship. There's no doubt about that. Jack O'Connor was on Adam Hogan was tight on him all day, and Jack stood up to him. Jack was outstanding, I have to say. 4 points from play. Daniel Carney has been an experienced player for Thomastown through the years. Outstanding again. Cian Darcy around the middle of the park. Brilliant performance. Cathal McCarthy, again, he's had his injury issues as well. This season has only come back into the starting 15 over the last few weeks. But Cathal, again, we've seen Cahill's form last season for Stars, which brought him into the extended panel for Cork in the hurling team this year. They got to the All-Ireland final. Cahill was outstanding today. 4 points from play, brilliant performance. And yeah, you can't fault any of them, but Paul Leopold, Conor O'Sullivan in corner back rows. I think Owen Murphy was brilliant in defence as well. There's so many to name. They were outstanding. Daniel Hogan for Freeze was very good in the second half, particularly driving the team on. There's no doubt about that as well. And even the players that did come onto the pitch, coming up near to the end of the game, Shane O'Regan came on and got a point as well. So yeah, there was very good performances all over the field. Owen O'Sullivan came on as well. So yeah, there was brilliant performances from Stars. There's no doubt about that. And I'm sure the players will be confident enough going to the final in a few weeks' time against Ballygunner. Will be tough for them, obviously. I think they know that themselves, but I think it's just brilliant for them. I'm delighted for them that they got into the final and they got over the line today. Fecal, it's going to be hard for them. Just a side note to them, it's going to be hard for them. Obviously, they won their first Clare Championship since 1988. That was already an outstanding achievement for them. And it was almost like whatever happened today, it was always going to be a memorable year for them. It ended badly for them. Obviously, they lose by 8 points, but I'm sure they would have been absolutely delighted with how the year has gone. To win the Clare Championship in the first place was an outstanding achievement. They should be very proud of their efforts. But yeah, I'm just delighted for the Stars players and onto the Munster final, as I said, in 2 weeks' time.
Certainly, where you will run into Ballygunner. Ballygunner 126, Lockmore Castellani 116. I mean, the fairy tale journey of Lockmore Castellani comes to an abrupt end, to 10-point defeat at the hands of Ballygunner, who didn't make it as much of a banana skin this time that they did obviously 3 years ago when they ran into Lockmore at more or less the same stage, I think it was. This time it was a lot more dominant from Ballygunner, and they really are moving well. So it's going to be a big final, big test for Stars in this one. Ballygunner, again, big players to the fore. They're a very, very good side now.
And I don't think we need to talk about it, but Séamus, to epitomise it to everybody else, Ballygunner are an outstanding team. And it will be a challenge for the players in a few weeks' time. And I was watching a bit of this game up to half-time, obviously going to the ground in Páirc Uí Chaoimh today. You had to go up, prepare for the game in Stars at Fecal today. But leading up to half-time, I think Kevin Manning got a crucial goal on the stroke of it. And that kind of decided the game there and then. And Ballygunner really ran loose with that. Desi Hutchinson 4 points today. Peter Hogan 4 points. It's interesting to know, Ballygunner, I'm counting off the top of my head how many inter-county standard players. I know not all of them are inter-county at the moment for Waterford because of different reasons, but I'd say you could pick about 10 Ballygunner players, probably even more, and you'd say they'll slot right into the Waterford team. They are an outstanding team, there's no doubt about it. Stephen O'Keefe, they're Barry Coughlin, Ian Kenny, Philip Manny, Connor Sheehan, Paddy Levy, Peter Hogan. Like, I'm only getting to position number 10 of the wing forward position, and that's already players that are inter-county standard in that team. Parrot Manning, Mikey Manning, Desi Hutchinson. Like, it's an outstanding. Patrick Fitzgerald. It's just an outstanding thing. And I think they're right in the favourites for the All-Ireland. They're a brilliant side. Will be a challenge for Zars in a few weeks' time, but I'm sure the players will be just delighted to go into Munster final against Ballygunner, just to right the wrongs probably from last season, because it was a bit of it was a disappointing defeat to take for Stars last season, and I'm just hoping that they actually produce a game to Ballygunner in the final. There's no doubt that they can do that, but Ballygunner, as I said, just an outstanding team, and they're one of the favourites for the All-Ireland for the reason. A lot more Castletowney. Was it an argument, like you watched the game in Séamus, I didn't watch much of it obviously, was it an argument that a lot more Castletowney kind of took their eyes off the ball a bit, or were just Ballygunner were just a super team today?
Ballygunner were just so efficient. Like, I mean, it did seem like Ballygunner now have this kind of cruise control almost where they can get in. Like, they are so used to being here now, they kind of know how to get over the line in these games. And that is what I'm saying, is that I feel like obviously in terms of experience, Ballygunner have the advantage. Like, it's Sars' first Munster final, as you were saying to me off air before we started. So all the experience is going to be in Ballygunner's favour. I think if Ballygunner get through this game against Sars, I think if they get through the Munster final and win, I think the only team that can stop them is Nafina. I think Nafina could stop them in like a once-off crazy game. But I think 9 times out of 10 from that point on, Ballygunner win the All-Ireland Club Championship if they get through the Munster final. They're a really, really good team. And I feel like the hurt that they hold from last season, where they would no doubt feel like they've left that one behind them, will be driving them on to try and put right that wrong this season. But we're going to switch provinces now. We're going to move across from the south up to the east to the Leinster Senior Hurling Championship quarterfinals. Now, as I said, I predicted 3 out of 4 correct. I went for Thomastown to win this one. But my goodness, if you wanted to make a statement as Castletown Gagan, you beat the Kilkenny champions off the park, 125 to 114. Just a sensational performance. And I don't think anybody would have saw this coming, especially given who Thomastown have beaten this season. Ballyhale Shamrocks, O'Loughlin Gales. But they couldn't get past Castletown Gagan, and all of a sudden, the Leinster Hurling Championship will not be won by a Kilkenny club.
Yeah, when was the last time that happens? To be honest, I think
it's that there. When is the last? Do you have to go back to Mount Leinster Rangers?
Would you go back to Coola, no? Or Mount Leinster?
Coola, apologies. Yeah, Coola.
So it's a long time ago, and we were saying during the week, it was almost like we were saying during the week, how will Thomastown get on in the semi-final to Kilcormac-Callaghy? We were that confident that they'd get past this game against Castletown Gagan or Giogan. I still don't know how to pronounce that name, so please let me know in the comments how do you pronounce that name. But they shut us all up. They shut the media up. It was an outstanding performance. Niall O'Brien, senior for Westmeath, obviously with 1 goal and 13 points today. That's an outstanding tally. If you could, Thomastown scored 114 and Niall O'Brien scored 113. That's
mental.
It's unreal. It really is. And as the score came in, I no lie, Séamus, I was looking at that score before going out onto the my position for the Stars vehicle game today, and I was looking through it, and I thought that was a typo. I honestly thought it was a typo that Castletown were leading this game. That is how shocked I was looking at that scoreline. And obviously we didn't watch the game in full, but we own the scores in front of us and stuff like that. And what actually went wrong for Thomastown, or were Castletown that good? It's a genuine question to ask. Were they brilliant in this game, or did Thomastown drop the ball? Did they go into the game with a kind of a mindset thinking, we have this, lads, we'll maybe go through the paces slowly, and then we'll go into the semi-final against Cormac-Callaghy, and then once you're in a bit of trouble, I think Eamon Dunphy said this about I know we're moving to soccer and stuff like that, but Eamon Dunphy said this about the Ireland-Germany game in 2015. Germany went in thinking, we're the world champions, we're unbeatables, we're going into the Aviva Stadium thinking we're the bee's knees. And it's kind of hard then when you're in a small bit in trouble to flick a switch.
Mm-hmm.
And there was an argument today were Thomastown in that mindset. Taking nothing away from Castletown, obviously, but it is an argument. It is an argument there. So yeah, it's a brilliant result for Castletown, but for Thomastown, I know they've had a brilliant season, but they were fully expected to win it. They kind of dropped the ball a bit in an open enough Leinster Championship. So
yeah, it reminds me. I have to say, it reminds me a lot of when Kilmacud Crokes got out of the Dublin Hurling Championship and then lost to Clockballacalla at the first hurdle. Like this reminds me a lot of that. Like a team that hasn't got out of the Dublin Championship in quite a while, gets out and then almost gets a bit giddy and thinks, well, at least champions will smash them. No, you won't. Like they're game ball, they're ready for you. And I feel like the experience that Castletown kind of had over them, and like especially even just playing at the higher level. But I can't understand. Like there's a multitude of different reasons. Maybe Castletown being a little bit more experienced in Leinster. Maybe Castletown knowing that Thomastown surely on some level would have thought, we have this one here, lads. If we bet O'Loughlin Gales off the park, we'll take this one. And that's the thing is, like, I think if Castletown were to play Ballyhale Shamrocks in 2 weeks, I'd tip Ballyhale to win. But that's because Ballyhale know how to handle this situation. They know how to manage out their gas tank, manage out their squad, their energy. And when they get out of Kilkenny, they always get out of Leinster as well. Like that's why the best bet to stop Ballyhale has always been to catch them early, catch them from the get-go. Don't let them build up a head of steam because, you know, the more miles they build up, the harder it's going to be to stop them. And Castletown really caught Thomastown on the hop, in my opinion. I just think Thomastown massively underestimated them. And then it was that classic situation again where you're talking about failing to flip a switch, that Castletown were just way better than I think Thomastown thought that they were going to be. And once they realized that how you're in a big fight here, it kind of reminded me of Anthony Joshua, Daniel Dubois in the box match at Wembley in September, where Joshua clearly thought he was going to run through Dubois, and then all of a sudden, not only is Dubois beating him, but he's beating the shit out of him. That like all of a sudden he just can't recalculate, get back in the zone. This is a real dogfight. I thought this was going to be easy, and you're almost in a state of shock that it's not easy. But Castletown were full value for that win, and they march on to the next round. And this one, I'm very happy with my prediction here because I said that Na Fianna had the potential to smash Clockballacalla, and I'll let the scoreboard speak for itself. Na Fianna, 3 goals, 20 points. Clockballacalla, 1 goal and 15 points. Na Fianna, for me now, have to be favourites for the Leinster Championship. I don't really see how they wouldn't be. I know that Kilcormac are dangerous. I know St. Martin's have the O'Connor brothers. And I know about the performance that Castletown just put in. But if you look at like strength for strength, player for player, and you compare all the teams, Na Fianna on paper are the strongest team left. And if you look at their form, the way they dispatched of Clockballacalla is hugely impressive here.
Yeah, it's brilliant results, obviously. And we talked during the week about them not relying on Donald Burke as much as Dublin, which is kind of a weird kind of a thing for a club team not to be reliant on a player that the inter-county team are reliant on for so many seasons. And it proved that way today as well. Like Donald Burke only got 2 points from play. Like Andrew Jameson Murphy, as we talked about during the week, scored 1-4 from play. And he scored a lot from play going into this game as well. He's a key player for them. It's no doubt about it. Colin Curry with 7 points as well. Kieran Stacey with 1-1. Like, it was a brilliant performance from Na Fianna, and this was a Clockballacalla team that beat Kilmacud Crokes a few seasons ago. And Na Fianna would have gone into this game thinking in that mindset that this could be a shock. But they held their nerve, to be fair to them, and they got over the line this one. And that comes with experience as well, Séamus, because last year they were very, very close to O'Loughlin Gales. And what Na Fianna do have now is experience, number one, in losing that final and have the ability to bounce back. Number two as well, they have some outstanding players across the team. Like Liam Rush at centre back as well, not even mentioning the scoring. Like that's one of Dublin's main players as well, if available. Colin Curry AJ Murphy, Donald Burke as well. They have a superb team. Brian Ryan in midfield, who's actually from Limerick, but there you go. They have a brilliant team. There's no doubt about that, and they are probably going to be favourite. But I'm sure the likes of Adam Screeney and the Kilcormac-Callaghy boys will be thinking differently. And the O'Connors, of course, from St. Martin's, who produced a very good performance against Naas as well today. But Navina, I'd absolutely agree with you, look to be favourites for the Leinster Championship. And then again, like they'll face, if they win the Leinster Championship, they'll face a Loughrea team that haven't had a competitive game by that stage for about a month or even more. So I feel like they could be en route to an All-Ireland final as well. And in a final, anything can happen as well.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. We have a great comment in here from Shane Healy. He says, first Westmeath win in Leinster in 11 years. Now, I don't know exactly if that fact is 100% correct off the top of my head, but if it is, that is a sensational stat. And it shows just as well to not only break that run of bad form for Westmeath hurling in Leinster in the club championship anyway, but to beat the Kilkenny champions by doing it. I mean, talk about making a statement. We're going to move on to the last two games. So obviously you mentioned about St. Martin's and Kilcormac-Callaghy. The two of them got relatively straightforward wins. St. Martin's won 15, Naas 13 points, and Kilcormac-Callaghy won 17, St. Mullins won 12. So 5-point wins for both St. Martin's and Kilcormac-Callaghy. Where do you see them in the mix? Because we said that Nafina should be favourites now for the Leinster Championship, given the players that they have. And on paper, you would make them the strongest side. But St. Martin's beating Naas, Kilcormac-Callaghy beating St. Mullins, both by 5 points. And then Castletown sweeping Thomastown aside. Where do you put them? Where do you rank them in terms of who's kind of more likely to go and win Leinster now?
You'd have to look at Kilcormac-Callaghy because a lot of people were talking about them as main contenders for the All-Ireland even last year and building up a bit of momentum. But then they came up against a kind of a brick wall in O'Loughlin Gales and they got blown out of it. I feel like in the semi-final now, again, brilliant win for Castletown today. And the players have every right to celebrate. It's an outstanding victory and a shock victory and the first Westmeath side to win in 11 years, as the commentator just said there as well. But it is a team from Westmeath. And with the greatest of respect, Kilcormac-Callaghy will fancy their chances of going to the final. This is a big opportunity for them now. The door's open for them. This is a huge opportunity. As well for Martins. And I will say this is a brilliant kind of a thing from the Wexford County Board this year. To put their championship in October. Look what happened. You got the results. You got St. Martin's into a semi-final. That's what happens when you help your clubs. And I think fair play to the Wexford County Board for that. If I play devil's advocate for a bit, Séamus, if St. Martin's won the Wexford Championship in August this year, I think Naas would have beat them.
Yeah.
I think they would have beat them.
You can definitely make that argument.
Yeah. Looking at the last few seasons anyway. So they helped their clubs this year. They now have St. Martin's in the semi-final, who are a dangerous opponent for Nafina. And we have pinpoints Nafina are the favourites for Leinster as of now. But when you have the likes of Rory O'Connor again scoring 11 points today, you have Jack O'Connor scoring a goal, you have Darren Codd, you have Jack Devereaux, you have some brilliant players all over the field as well. The way they put away St. Anne's Rathangan in the Wexford final as well, and they comfortably beat Naas in St. Conleth's Park as well. They're a dangerous team for Nafina. And Nafina are good players, I'm sure. They're a brilliant side. But St. Martin's are a dangerous opposition. And to be honest, that game could go either way. Whereas the other semi-final, you have to make Kilcormac-Callaghy massive favourites. And to be honest, that could in a way play in a good way for Kilcormac-Callaghy and Adam Screeney.
Yeah, no, you have to agree with that. I felt like the talk for Kilcormac winning an All-Ireland last season was way too soon. I feel like they do have a very, very young team. And Screeney obviously being, the superstar that he is. I just thought the brick wall for me for O'Loughlin Gales, like as in the brick wall being O'Loughlin Gales against Kilcormac-Callaghy, for Adam Screeney that was running into Mikey Butler. Just like Mikey Butler was just a bad stylistic matchup for Screeney because he's quick, he's pacey, he can stick with Adam Screeney, he's tenacious and he's a hell of a defender. And if he can man-mark Tony Kelly out of an All-Ireland semi-final a couple of years ago, he can definitely do a job on a 19-year-old Adam Screeney. And that definitely was seen that day. But I do think they're getting better and better and better. I do think it is only a matter of time before they make a burst. But I think the fact that Nafina got so close last season and fell short at the final hurdle without the best player in Donald Burke, now they got him. I think they'll probably get over the line this season. Now, the last hurling game we're going to feature in our games talked about before running through the rest of the results. Then we move on to the Connacht semi-finals and run through the rest of the results of the weekend. The Ulster Senior Hurling Championship semi-final. What a game. We were talking about what an opportunity this would be for Ulster Hurling having this game on RTE on Saturday night. And it did not fail to deliver. I mean, Slaughtneil 136, Rory O'Cushendall 325. That's after extra time, by the way. And Slaughtneil ultimately get over the line in an absolute epic. But we have to give a massive shout out to Neil McManus. The Antrim legend scored 3-9 in this game and still came out on the losing side.
Just a magnificent game. And a lot of people were talking about this last night. It was brilliant entertainment. And when you think about the games that RT have been getting in the last 2 weeks, Naas and Coola last week and now this game this week, what next week? Like, to be honest, I think the game actually scheduled for Saturday is Scotstown against Kilcoo. If RT put that game on, that's 3 Saturday nights in a row where the GAA fans have been treated magnificently. And this game, and it definitely advertised Ulster hurling in a brilliant light in this one. And Neil McManus, like, first of all, and fair play to Slaughtneil, we'll talk about him in a bit. For Neil McManus, what a player. He scored the last minute goal in a game against St. Pat's Portaferry for Down last year to bring the game to extra time. In a game that Rory O'Cushendall won. He brought the game to extra time with a last minute goal in this one too. The guy's inevitable. He got, I think it was 13 shots off in normal time anyway, 12 taken, got a few wides in extra time, but that was down to tiredness, obviously. It was almost like Neil McManus against Slaughtneil in this game. He was outstanding. This guy, he could still provide something for Antrim. Like, he's an outstanding player. He's an outstanding hurler. And I
wonder if Davy Fitz blown up his phone.
Cool, especially if Davy Fitz was there. Yeah, I definitely would. And the fact they've lost Conor McCann to retirement this week as well, I feel like he has to. Like, he's an outstanding player. You cannot ignore him. He's an outstanding. There's no words to describe what Neil McManus is about. But Slaughtneil had their players too. Brendan Rodgers, as good a hurler as he is a footballer. And we said that during the week as well. 7 points at this one. Outstanding display from him. Shane McGuigan definitely did well, especially in extra time when the bodies retired for Slaughtneil in defence. And our Cormac O'Doherty, and a player that really stood up for my liking. Now, I didn't know much about going to this game. Jack Cassidy from midfield, 6 points from play. Really good display from him, and really impressive as well. And Slaughtneil, they were just brilliant throughout the game. There's no doubt about that. And even some of the stats as well, like the numbers jumping off the page after doing these stats. Slaughtneil had 55 shots in the game. Rory Oak had 43. If that's quick math, I think that's about, 98 shots? Nearly 100 shots in 80 minutes. Like,
are you not entertained?
This is unreal. It was an unreal game. There's no doubt about it. 53 puckles for Cushendall. About 88 turnovers in 80 minutes between the two sides as well. Added onto the shot count. 321 from play for Cushendall. 134 from play for Slaughtneil. 134 from play. What a display. You know, and you have to give credit to both sides of this one. And I thoroughly enjoyed this on Saturday night. And a lot of people might have switched over to a movie or something like that. And they might say, oh, this movie is crap. Switch back to RT2, lads. This game was just box office. What a game of hurling. And I think if we're doing our awards for a game of the year, this is certainly up there. And that's including the honour of the final between Clare and Cork. I know that was a brilliant game as well. Outstanding game of hurling. This game matched it as well. It was a brilliant display. And fair play to both sides, and mostly fair play to Slaughtneil for getting into the final against Portaferry.
No, it absolutely is. Like, I think when you look at it, like, to say that there were just under 100 shots taken in the entire game, like, you know, the quick maths on it, but like, that's definitely under 2 minutes for the average shot to be taken. Like, so you were just constantly entertained watching this game. It was the two best teams in Ulster. Like, make no mistake about it. No disrespect. I think whoever won this was going to go in as the massive favourite in that final against Portaferry. But just absolutely sensational game of hurling. And for Ulster hurling as well, it was massive that it was on RTE Saturday night. They had that main slot, and by God did they deliver. Well, as you said, one of the best games of the year. Yeah, no, Neil McManus reminded me a lot of like a very similar example to Mbappe in the World Cup final against Argentina a couple of years ago, where even though he lost, it was like his stock has just absolutely climbed up another bit. And I think Davy Fitz will definitely be blowing up his phone after that. Switching from the small ball then to the big ball, our last featured games before we run through the results. The Connacht Senior Football Championship semi-finals, and the team that I'm backing to go all the way, Pádraig Pearses, they dominated Mohill in this one, 13 points to 3. I mean, like going from just under 100 shots in the Slaughtneil versus Rory O'Cushel game, we come right back down to planet Earth with the current state of Gaelic football. Oh, we don't need rule changes. Mohill scored 3 points in an hour.
And 1 point from play. 1 point from play.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so there's your example of why we do. We do need people to be more encouraged to go on the offensive. Pádraig Pearses just held Mohill at arm's length. And I was actually surprised at how easy it was. I thought that there'd be a lot more fight from Mohill in this one. But is it a case of Pearses being just too good, or were Mohill way below their standard as well?
I'm looking at the match report for the official GA website, and they said at the start of the report, Pádraig Pearses beat Mohill 10 points to 1 in the second half. So that would indicate to me it was 3 points to 2 in the first half.
Mm-hmm. It's not great, is it?
And people say that we don't need rule changes and we need defensive football for teams to for underdogs to.
Let's actually break that down. Who enjoys defensive football? Like, who actually, because I remember there were a few years ago, do you remember the Pat Spillane rant where he was talking about what sort of a game do we want?
Yeah.
Because he's saying he was watching a Derry versus Down game in the Ulster Championship of that year, where a lot of people were complaining about the lack of defensive systems and the lack of good defending and everything like that. Like, if you actually enjoy going to games and watching players hand pass the ball back and forth, and the game of chess that it has become, I'm not cut from that cloth, to be honest. Like, I want to see entertainment. Like, I want to be at a game. Like, when I'm at a hurling match, everyone's eyes are glued to the pitch the entire time. When I'm at a football match, people are checking their phones during the game, like texting people and putting up stories. You can go get a coffee, come back. You probably won't have missed much. And this is speaking from somebody who cuts highlights. It's far easier to cut highlights from a football match than it is to cut highlights from a hurling match, because you can pretty much put in every score. Like, for most games. For this game, you can put in every single score and the highlights will be under 5 minutes.
Yeah,
like,
that's exactly.
Whereas talk about the Slaughtneil versus Rory O'Cushel game. God bless whoever is trying to pick the highlights out of that game.
Yeah, that's a hard job. There's no doubt about that. But people were arguing to me, people were DMing me on Instagram saying that, we don't need rule changes because, like it or not, defensive football allows underdogs to excel. Mohill were the underdogs today and they only got 3 points and didn't win the game. So, like this game probably...
That's true it's true to a point. The current game allows for the bigger team to just big brother the underdogs. And like we've seen it in the last decade with Dublin, for example, in the Leinster Championship, that if someone scores against Dublin are basically like, oh, that's cute. We're going to take the ball now and you're not getting it back for the next 5 minutes, and good luck building momentum with that type of attitude. Whereas if there were real changes, you wouldn't really be allowed to do that. And like, my personal thought process has always been the shot clock. It's always like, I think you can bring in 50 million different rules, or you can bring in a shot clock rule, because let's be honest, you go back and watch a game in the 1990s, the early 2000s, see does a team hang on to the ball for 2 minutes? No, they don't, because you caught that ball and you belted it down the pitch, and it was far more contests, and there was a lot more one-on-ones inside, and there was a lot more entertainment. Every time the ball was getting kicked and it was really fiercely contested for, that was what people like to see. Now there's no element of competition. The jersey numbers mean nothing. It's 15 on 15. And we're going to play, a system style of football where it doesn't matter where you are on the team. And I personally prefer games that are more carnage, more chaos, more people on the edge of their seats not knowing what's going to happen. We very much know what's going to happen now. And while Louth did put in a good performance against Dublin in the Leinster final, and it's a good example to use of how Louth stayed in the game by being defensive. But the reality is, once Dublin got 4 or 5 points ahead of them, even though Louth got the goal, it's still over. Because Louth get the goal, Dublin aren't going to attack. And this is going to be the same across the board. If Clare, for example, get the goal against Kerry from Michael Maguire, you think Kerry are going to boot the ball into the forward line? No, they're not. They're going to hang on to it and let that momentum die. And that's not what I want to see. I want to see that when teams have other teams in the back foot, they can really make it count. And that's why I respected the FRC so much, because they were trying things. But me personally, the shot clock would just make so much sense, because if you hang on to the ball for 2 minutes and you do nothing with it, you deserve to lose that ball. Go back, watch a game in the 90s when the game was a lot more entertaining for the casual fan. And for GAA hardcore, die-hard GAA fans, the game was a lot more entertaining too. And see if a team hangs onto the ball for 2 minutes. No, they don't. Because it was catch and kick, a lot more contests, a lot more scoring opportunities, a lot more enjoyable as a spectacle. And I think we kind of need to head back towards that direction, in my opinion. And if there was a shot clock, if I was a coach, I would be thinking we realistically cannot sit deep, defend, and then go on the offense. Sit deep, defend, go on the offense. We're going to need to move players further up the pitch and kick that ball to move it quicker up the pitch. That's what I'd be thinking as a coach. Remember that whole saying when we were younger, let the ball do the work? I think that would come back a lot more if the shot clock was to come in. But I'm open to people saying that they don't like it. That's just my opinion at this particular moment in time. We have a comment in here from Gavin Malone. He says, Nace versus Coola standard is what we want to see each week. Good attacking football. Absolutely. Like, we're here on the weekend. Entertain us. Because there's a lot of options. That's why it's really important that the GAA acknowledges. That's why the FRC is really important. Because the League of Ireland is making a big splash. Hurling is fantastic. Basketball is making a push. Rugby is doing fantastic. There's a lot of options for people to watch in terms of sports. And then you've got boxing, you've got UFC, you've got plenty of options for how to spend your Saturday night. Gaelic football needs to be as entertaining as possible to get people wanting to play and wanting to watch. Defensive football is not that. And if you think that defensive football is going to attract people to play the game, do us a favor. Like, that's not going to happen. The players themselves don't like playing defensive football. They've openly said that. That was the whole thing that was clear about the FRC. And that's why a lot of players might be going to Australia too.
That's exactly it, yeah. And you just look at the game today, the Pearses and Mole game. It was just a drag game of football. And I know Pearses would be favourites for the order, but I'm actually delighted the Pearses got over the line, because if Mohill did, you would have seen more defensive football, more boring, kind of they play like that. Just entertain us, please. Like, you look at the hurling this weekend, and it wasn't just the Rory O'Cushadon and Slaughtneil game today. Like, the game between Sars and Fecal was an entertaining game as well. The Thomastown and Castletown Gilligan was an entertaining game. The football games today and over the weekend, the only one that I could say was entertaining enough and watching a team do brilliant and stuff like that was probably Scottstown against Orville's Belief, where Scottstown were just magnificent. Other than that, I think it was very, very hard to pick a good game of football this weekend. And that's what the FRC are here to do. That'll come in now with the special congress on the 30th of November. It'll be interesting to see the votes on this. Great win for Pearses, and that shouldn't be overstated. But this game, again, epitomised why we need rule changes.
Here we go. Here's another one for you. Ready?
Yeah.
After extra time. 9 points each. Jesus Christ. That's a half-time score. 9 points each. Coolera, Strandhill, 9 points. Ballina, Stephenites, 9 points. Coolera on penalties. This is the prediction that I got correct. I said that I didn't fancy Ballina, even though they won Mayo, didn't fancy them to put up any sort of fight to Pádraig Pearse's should they run into them. And I said that I would not be surprised at all if Coolera beat them in this game. Coolera beat them on penalties. And is that a real, like, because like, let's look at it on paper, like this, like just absolutely brutally. They weren't that impressive against the London champions. They got through that game. One of those that you just need to get the job done. But they weren't impressive in it. And now they've been knocked out by the Sligo champions. Like, for Mayo, a team that, like a county that is supposed to be winning All Ireland's, it's very similar to what Meath have going on in Leinster, where they just, for some reason, are completely overshadowed by Roscommon and Galway time after time on the club scene at provincial level.
Yeah, it's a tough area for Mayo clubs, there's no doubt about that. It just needs a big win to boost it up again. And we've seen it with other counties where the run keeps continuing. We've seen it with other counties as well, like Cork Hurling today. Sarah's got the win, first Cork club to win a game since 2016, and that could boost a team, there's no doubt about that. But Mayo needed the boost to get to a kind of final today, and Ballina didn't provide, unfortunately for Ballina, they didn't provide it today. It was a loss to Coolera Strandhill. Coolera Strandhill backboned by Niall Murphy with 6 points. It was a brilliant performance by him. And brilliant for Sligo, in fairness. Like, Sligo have reached, in the last 3 seasons, they've reached 2 Connacht finals in club. That's a brilliant kind of a stat for them. Third Strandhill in 2022, and now Coolera Strandhill did it this year as well. So it's a brilliant achievement for their club championship. I'm sure they'll be delighted with that as well. But for Ballina, Stephen, it's the second year in a row, though, they've gone into the Connacht Championship, winning Mayo probably comprehensively enough this year, and there was a lot of hope going into the Connacht Championship. They just failed to put any sort of momentum going in this game, and that would have been disappointment, obviously, for the players involved. Obviously, they lost this game on penalties, but from what I was hearing in this game, Coolera deserved to win this game for the fight they put in throughout the game. They won this game, and fair play to them for getting over the line. The Sligo Football Championship, for a championship that isn't probably renowned throughout the whole country, it's just brilliant for them to get to another Connacht Club Championship final for Coolera Strandhill to do the Sligo Championship justice.
Certainly. Well, that's the last of our featured games. I'm going to run through the rest of the results from the weekend, and then we're going to wrap the episode up. But if you're watching, if you have any final questions, do be sure to drop them in just before I wrap it up. I'm going to run through the rest of the weekend's results, starting for the rest of Saturday's results. So the Ulster Senior Football Championship quarterfinal, Scottstown 19 points, Erngales Balik 6 points. So a massive win there for Scottstown. And then the Munster Senior Camogie final replay, Trua Clonlara 4-12, Galtier 3-15 after extra time. And then Trua Clonlara 1. Nogi Shamrocks, they beat Swatra by 3 goals and 16 points to Swatra's 5 points. And then moving on to the rest of Sunday's club results. So skipping past the Munster, Leinster, Connacht football, we have the Leinster Senior Football Championship quarterfinal, St. Lomans 3-11, Castletown, Liam Mellows 7 points. The Leinster Senior Camogie final, St. Vincent's 2-12, Pilltown 1-13, and then the Ulster Senior LGFA final, Clonairin 2-17, Lurgan 2-8. So that's the final results. We have a comment in here from Gavin Malone. Matthew, I'll throw this one to you real quick. Scottstown or Kilcoo?
You know my answer, Scottstown.
Scottstown. I'm going with Kilcoo.
Even after yesterday's performance, Séamus, Scottstown scored 14 points, I think, inside 20 minutes or something yesterday.
I said what I said. I'll die on this hill for no good reason. But yeah, no, I actually do. I think the fact that Kilcoo have done it once and done it before, I think that could help them in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, that is another weekend review, guys, finished here on Cluiche. Thank you so much to everybody that tuned in over the course of the episode. Big thank you to Pádraig Lennon, to Shane Healy, and to Gavin Malone for getting involved in the comments below. If you're watching this episode and it is no longer live, put your comments down in the comment section below. Get involved in the discussion. I'll respond to them all. Thank you for joining us for another episode. Take care of yourself. We'll be back here next weekend for another weekend review show. Until now, Torara.